Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlickers, shills, desolate, hearse, peasants, vassals, minions, meat sacks, fearmongers, doom peddlers. I'm Useful Idiot. Welcome. And let's go to the USA and look at a couple of reports that came out that prove without much doubt that Americans are scared shitless of just about everything, but particularly World War III and terrorism. And so let's look at these two reports because this is a big pet peeve of mine. I'm not one of those that buys into all the fear mongering and media. Both mainstream media and alternative media are making a mint off of selling doom and fear. And of course, our government also cashes in on selling fear and doom. And so I really bristle at the fact that all the results of the media and the politicians have succeeded because Americans are scared shitless. And it's all the more ironic because there's another poll out that public trust in media is at an all-time low. People prefer their friends and contacts for their information, which is really a dead-end street. So no wonder everybody's so misinformed. And 43% of Americans prefer their news from friends and contacts. So most unfortunate. But where else are they supposed to go, I guess, because you can't really trust the alternative media, and you really can't trust the mainstream media because they're peddling all this doom and fear. And like I say, it's paid off. So here we go. Let's look at a couple of these polls. 64% of Americans think we're close to World War III. So all those YouTube videos out there that have World War III in the title that get 100,000 views a day, it's really paid off for them. 15% think world peace is likely. So those 15% are certainly diluted as well. But the fact that 64% of Americans think we're close to World War III is really disheartening. UK is equally as high, which is no surprise. But one of the more telling facts is that Denmark, where people are very educated, only 45% of people think World War III is headed this way, but that's still too high a percentage. And of course, those numbers are bumped up right now because everybody fears Trump being in charge of the U.S. military. Well, I shouldn't say everybody, mostly just liberals. But the fact is that 60% of Americans fear Russia now. And this whole Russian boogeyman campaign obviously is paid off as well. And the Russian witch hunt is only going to increase that, which just seems really odd because the fact is that Trump's stated policies and some of the things he's moving towards right now seem to indicate that he's going to back away from World War III. With Hillary Clinton, we already knew that she was very much embracing the demonizing Russia and the whole World War III scenario. And Trump, on the other hand, wants to work with Russia. He wants to remove the sanctions for reducing nuclear stockpiles. And so anyway, but the public has already decided what the narrative is. It doesn't really matter what Trump says, but he's moving in that direction, which is interesting. So anyway, the fact that Trump's getting into office would seem to indicate that the likelihood of World War III is even less likely, and yet Americans are even more fearful. But that's just because they're misinformed. And then the other report that came out is that the number one concern of U.S. citizens is terrorism. So in spite of the fact that you're more likely to be struck by lightning than killed by a terrorist in the United States, in spite of the fact that almost every case of domestic terrorism has just been a lone wolf, a psychotic lone wolf loaded up on psychotronic drugs who claims an affiliation with terrorism and really doesn't have any, or the fact that we have a number of cases of domestic terrorists that have been supposedly caught, and they're all FBI entrapment cases of just losers that are set up by the FBI. So there really isn't much reason to fear terrorism. And then we see, of course, acts of terrorism around the world, but that should make Americans fearful because it's not here. And the World Economic Forum is the one that came up with the study. 67% of Americans are more concerned about terrorism than anything else, and that's pretty shocking because you look at the rest of the list of things that Americans are concerned about. The fact that terrorism is number one seems pretty irrational compared to the fact that Americans are not as afraid of these other things as terrorism. And those other things are unemployment, inflation, taxes, corruption, moral decline, healthcare, education, crime, immigration, poverty, obesity, the environment, and climate change. So they're more afraid of terrorism than all those other things, but all those other things directly affect them a lot more, and there's a lot more evidence to support that. So anyway, there we have it. I'm very disappointed to find this out because, as my regulars know, I really am not into this whole doom, fear, loop, the media exploitation of people's insecurities, and this whole World War III and hordes of terrorists coming to the United States scenarios. I just don't buy it, and the facts bear that out. So anyway, but there we go. God, Americans are scared out of their fucking minds about terrorism and World War III, and they got other things to worry about. Trust me, I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.